Hi there. I've returned your grades for the thickness of aluminum foil lab. It was a 7-point lab. If you did not receive full credit and you want to earn points back, I won't give you full credit, but I will add points to that grade. You may watch this video and do so. If you got 7 out of 7, you can stop here and move on to something else. So, here were the measurements that we used. We already went through this. The length of the foil, the width. We're trying to determine what the height or thickness of the foil was. We put our piece of aluminum foil on a balance and the mass was 0.13 grams. And then the density came from the periodic table, 2.6989 grams per cubic centimeter. We're going to use the equation for density. It's equal to mass divided by volume. And we're going to solve for volume. And I think right here is where some of you had issues. There's a couple of different ways to do this. You can multiply both sides times V, or I usually cross multiply density, that's any number over 1 is the same number, and now cross multiply. So we have density times volume equals the mass. Well, we still can't solve for our unknown. Remember, we have the density, it's right here, and we have the mass, it's right there. So we need to solve for volume. Now I'm going to divide both sides by the density. So density will cancel. So I have volume equals mass over density. So now you plug in your numbers, your mass and your density. You'll get the volume equals. Take it to a couple of decimal places. Do not round for sig figs yet. And put a unit here. Okay, you must put a unit. And the volume, I'll tell you, the unit's right here, cubic centimeters. So that's number 1. Okay, so for number 1, check your answer that you submitted earlier, and then I would redo your math. If you get a different answer, you submit it to me. For number 2, okay, let me move this up a little bit. You're going to now use volume equals length times width times height. We know the volume. How do we know it? Oh, look, it's right here. Okay, sorry, my camera cut out. So now we know the volume. Well, this number that we got right here is our volume. So we can plug in the volume. You know the length and the width because we measured it earlier. Plug those numbers in. Now you want to solve for the height. Well, how do I get height by itself? So if I divide this side by length and width, they are now going to cancel. And whatever I do to this side, I must do to this side. Length times width. So now I have height equals the volume divided by the length times the width. You will get an answer here, and you need to put in the correct units. Now, this answer must have the correct number of sig figs. So how do you determine the number of sig figs? You go back and you look at all the measurements you used, and you want the smallest number of sig figs. You have 3 sig figs here in these numbers. You have 2 sig figs in the mass, and you have 5 sig figs here. That's all I'm going to tell you. Now, you use that information to determine the number of sig figs, and then for number 3, you're going to tell me which instrument. We only used 2 instruments, a ruler and a balance, and we had the periodic table for this, so a ruler or a balance determined the number of sig figs. Now, you're going to shoot me an email, 1 with your answer, 2 with your answer, and 3 with your answer. Which instrument determined the number of sig figs? If you want to add points to your grade. If not, move on to something else. I will see you at our next Zoom.